So we wanted to speak today a little bit about Fox's all-new V3 RS or race spec helmet that's just landed on the market. I guess a couple of reasons, and first of all, because compared to its predecessor, the sort of second generation MVRS V3, it looks almost identical from the outside. Really, not a lot of difference, but there's a huge amount of redesign and upgraded componentry and design features, particularly safety features in the new one. And I guess the other thing is, I think sort of Fox maybe lost their way a little bit, or I shouldn't say that, perhaps they sort of just confused consumers a little bit about their sort of lineage of helmets and where this new one sort of sits in the fray. So let's have a chat about it. What are we talking about? A new MVRS. Okay, compared to its predecessor, it's the big changes are really in the sort of composite shell, the way that all fits together, the EPS liner, the way the visor attaches, and some of the safety features. So they've gone away from the fluid inside liquid pods of the predecessor, back to a sort of upgraded MIPS system, which a lot of helmets use these days, or a lot of top of the line ones do. But it's and also integrated the capacity to fit and eject helmet removal system. So there's a lot of features. So bear with me. I've got a couple of notes here because I really don't want to sort of overlook any of them. So we've been wearing the thing now for a couple of months, and certainly long enough to get a really good feel for it in all sorts of different conditions. So let's take you through what we really liked about the thing for starters. So quality of finish, made in a different factory now. I think if you look at the sort of everything from the $300 V1 to the more recently introduced V2 helmet at $400, this give or take $700. The quality of finish has always been good, but I think even compared to the predecessor, just when you have a close look at the thing, the quality of finish is just mint. It really is next level, top shelf. I believe made in a different factory because the way they're incorporating all the chin piece quite differently to the predecessor. Got to like the fact that it comes with a carry bag as well, something you kind of expect, I guess, with a sort of $700 helmet. And personal touch I really like is that you've got some carbon fibre D-rings there. So aside from looking really trick, I think you've not got any issues with the things corroding. I guess the other key thing is protection. Top end helmet, you'd be crazy not to be talking about the protection. So I think with its predecessor, with the fluid inside pods, you had to get the fit bang on for it to be comfortable on your head. It felt like a bit of a clamp to me. I'm quite often in between medium and large size in a Fox. And where those pods, although they're sort of strategically placed on your head, and there's a lot of science behind what they do, it's supposed to mimic cerebral fluid. I found that while it might have offered protection, it was at a compromise of sort of comfort and feel. So the new MVRS has gone back to like an updated MIP system. Everyone's pretty familiar with that, with some top end helmets. It's really cleverly designed with some little tethers on the thing. Super trick, and it allows I think for the thing to fit a lot better as well. Other big change, and probably one of the greatest safety elements, I guess, of any helmet is the EPS expanded polystyrene liner. Quite a change. I think when we saw in the predecessor, it was like a sawtooth sort of design in that EPS. The new EPS liner is more of like a beanbag kind of look. And while we haven't crashed in the thing, and not a big one anyway, touch wood, you can feel when you push your fingers into the thing that it actually does have a lot more absorption. Safety feature, and there's like the crumple zones in your car. It's designed to disperse that energy and spread it over a wider area. And the other key thing, and there's something really that's probably overdue, you'd have to say, from Fox V3, is integrating the helmet eject system. So it hasn't actually got a system, but it has the provision to fit one. So by creating that all new EPS liner, it's allowed them to actually fit that into the roof of the helmet, which I think in a lot of ways, consumers now, when you're paying $700 plus for a helmet, you're going to expect a feature like that. That obviously augments the emergency cheek pads that pull out as well. Comfort, I alluded to it before, but I think on the predecessor they went to 4 shell sizes. Those 4 shell sizes also have 4 EPS liner sizes to suit. That really helps you customize the fit of the thing. I think it's by far the most comfortable Fox helmet I've ever worn. Which is saying a lot because the things have always been top shelf. Probably, as I said, because I'm between a medium and large, the cool thing is that the standard cheek pads, 45 mils, you've got a 40 or 50 mil option, so you can customize it. Right, probably you know, the most divisive issue, I guess you'd have to say, really, with the V3 over the last few years. And as I said before, the reason maybe they lost their way a little bit and people got a little bit sceptical or cynical about, you know, these helmets was a MVRS, a magnetic visor release system. So sort of, you know, back here, early days, I've got a little lineup of my Fox I've worn over the last 15 years or something. You know, this was the magnetic visor that was sort of retrofitted, you know, to the old shell shape. Obviously, with the new shell shape and complete new design in 2019, you know, that you know, worked better. You know, didn't fly off as readily. But, you know, we've all seen pictures of dudes, you know, whether it's on an AMA Supercross or you know, AOS off-road racing or anywhere in between, you know, where they're a little glance from a tree branch or a small hit on the ground, you wouldn't expect to create a stinger in your neck. You know, you're riding around looking like some cannonball head, you've lost the visor. So it was happening way too often, and I think it kind of gave Fox a bit of a bad rep with that. So, you know, what they've done is actually moved to a, you know, what they're calling a second generation MVRS. So essentially what's happened is they've left the central magnetic post in the middle, and then they've replaced the two side magnets with shear off screws. So same thing, it's supposed to, you know, you have to actually hit this thing pretty damn hard to get it off. And obviously you have to hit it harder than that to be able to lose it. So, you know, I think it's kind of good in a way, and it'll give everybody the confidence that still got those design elements that, you know, mitigate those rotational forces when you hit your head on the ground. You know, desert racers won't be sort of thinking, oh shit, it's going to fly off as soon as I get over 120 clicks. So, you know, I think that's something pretty important. A really interesting point of this helmet is that it's about 1,260 grams, 1.26 kilos. That makes it around 150, 200 grams lighter than its predecessor, depending on which shell size you're comparing it to. But the important thing for me is actually where it loses the weight. So again, from the outside, they look the same, but when you look up closer, the way that this whole chin bar area and eye port, which was actually one separate piece in its predecessor, that is now all integrated much more robustly, much neater into the actual helmet. And what that does, that's largely where the weight has been saved. So what actually happens now is when you're wearing the helmet, all that weight's off there, so it's less sort of chin heavy. So it actually feels, it might be 150, 200 lighter, but because it sits more neutrally and more balanced on your head. What didn't we like about it? Well, there's a couple of things about the visor. As we said, it's a lot better. Quibbling, I suppose, visor adjustability. You know, one of the, I guess, what you get when you get one of these magnetic visors is it's not adjustable. Adjustability in itself is quite often an issue with helmets because that can create its own problems. But, you know, for young punks who are sort of like fashion conscious, nice high visor, which is a bit higher than average the way it sits, you know, they're going to be fine with it. Trail adventure guy, you know, for whom the visor is completely a practical thing, you're riding into the western setting sun, wants to be able to adjust it, you know, they might have a bit of an issue with that. You don't get a spare visor, you know, in the bag, but it would have been cool to get a couple of shear off screws. You bust the thing off, suddenly you don't have, you know, you got an intact visor but no screws to put the thing back on. The other little thing we noticed, and this was also a bit of an issue on its predecessor, in that there's just such a large mounting area here. So this one's got a magnet here, vibrates a little bit there, but because it's gone to a slightly thinner material, you can feel it from one to the next. When you sort of rocking along, it, you know, it typically happens around, I think, sort of 70, 80 clicks. So not the bush, generally fire trail road. This can set up a little bit of a resonating jarring, and that sort of converts into a sort of mild buzzing sound inside. So depending whether you're easily annoyed by something like that or not, you know, we actually just put a couple little bits of blue tack in there. Sounds like a bit of a bodge job, I know, but you know, that fixed the problem. So like I said, a really significant, you know, for all those reasons, you know, I think this helmet, okay, it's $50 more, roughly $50 more than its predecessor. I think that came out at $700, went back to $650. So you're looking at sort of $700 for this carbon black model, the base model, and then all the other 6 colorways are another $30 on top of that. So you saw the difference from, you know, predecessor to the latest MVRS. You're talking about, you know, $50+ depending on the colorway. But to me, you know, it's a no-brainer. This is, you know, from a fit, functionality, component quality, safety feature, you know, to me, you can justify that premium, you know, absolutely. So, you know, props to Fox. You know, I think they've done a really, really good job with this helmet. I think they're sort of back on track. Probably a couple of little issues I'd like to see with them, you know, tidying up with what happens with this visor. But, you know, this thing's something special, and I've got to say, one of the most comfortable, one of my favourite helmets of all time.